Welcome back to the Doing Good podcast, where we celebrate volunteers, their stories, organizations, and passion for making a difference. I'm Megan McInnis, your host for this episode, and I'm glad you're here with us. After listening, we encourage you to share this volunteer story to hopefully educate or even inspire someone to act. Now, on to celebrating those who are doing good. Hello, and welcome to today's episode of the Doing Good podcast. I'm Megan McInnis, and I'm proud to be your host for the day. And if I sound a little funny, it's because I'm a little under the weather. So please be forgiving. But I am so happy to have Ryan Tagg with us today. Ryan, would you please introduce yourself to the listeners?
Sure. My name is Ryan Tagg, and I'm here, on behalf of a nonprofit that I've been volunteering with for about 5 years called Comfort Zone Camp.
That's interesting. So in 5 years, we'll just dig right in. So in 5 years, what all have you been doing for this one nonprofit?
A lot of different things. So I started off just as a big buddy, and to give a little information about the organization itself, it is a bereavement camp for children, primarily under the age of 18 that have lost siblings or parents. They've also expanded it to close friends, and they do young adults now too. But I started as a big buddy. So the way that the organization works is they put on camps over the weekend, so Friday to Sunday. And it's all volunteer-based. It's free for the kids. And they need people like me who just want to have fun with the kids and kind of give them guidance. We do a lot of fun activities. And then in between those activities, they will have certified counselors come in to help them discuss their grief and be surrounded by other people that have gone through similar situations. But yeah, I was just my job was just to make sure the kids are having fun and they made it to point A to point B safely, which is right up my alley. I like that.
That sounds great. Can you tell us again the name of this nonprofit?
So it's called Comfort Zone Camp. It was founded by a woman named Lynn Hughes, who suffered tragedy at a young age as well. And she wanted to kind of give back after losing her parents at a young age. So that's why she founded the organization. Since doing the Big Buddy thing, I've also part of the regional activity committee where we raised money. I put on events here at the office that I'm at now. They allowed us to have kind of like fundraisers here and things like that. And we also host the trainings here now.
Nice. Well, it sounds like you've gotten your hands into all or to many aspects of the organization. And so, can you fill us in a little bit about why you do what you do? Like, what got you interested in this camp in particular?
Well, so I have to credit the company that I work for, Dominion Payroll. I think, can't remember exactly how it happened, but one of our coworkers they're always bringing in kids, their kids will visit, and they saw me playing with them, right? And I love kids, just have a lot of fun, and I can be real goofy with them. And anyways, the marketing director, HR director at the time, was a volunteer for Comfort Zone Camp and suggested that I should be a big buddy. And I'd always been looking for an opportunity that was a little bit more hands-on. You could see a direct result from the efforts you were making. And so that's why it kind of interested me, because you get to spend all that one-on-one time with a child, to help them. So I decided to give it a shot. And I personally, hopefully I gave a lot back, but I got a lot from it.
And so have you been through, I'll say, grief before? Has anyone in your family passed?
No, I haven't. Certainly people have passed, but nothing compared to like the trauma that a lot of these kids have gone through. So I haven't had the same personal experiences as them, but it's interesting how you connect with people. There's always some bridge there, particularly with my first big buddy. We had a lot in common. It turns out, just not the grief part.
I love that. Yeah. So one of my favorite quotes is from Maya Angelou. We are more alike, my friends, than we are unalike.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And it also goes to show that someone doesn't necessarily have to have been through said experience in order to volunteer and support people going through it, whatever it is, whether it's bereavement or cancer or poverty, it doesn't matter. Uh, so would you mind going a little bit more into what you started as the buddy, and then how did that change in your involvement with the nonprofit?
So I was close friends with the director there. Her name is Anne-Marie Worthy, and she kind of encouraged me to join the committee. It really started because I had once I started being a big buddy, I wanted to help raise money for them. So we started doing. We've done 2 of them called Arts in the Addition. It's hosted here at Dominion Payroll. We have a big community room where we can bring in, particularly nonprofits and speakers. Also, they don't charge anything to use that space, and I take full advantage whenever I can. So we got, I think it was like 10 to 15 vendors, so like woodworkers, painters, things like that, and then leverage some of our business relationships for payroll companies. So we work with a lot of local companies. But I got to give a shout out to Bozen in particular. Joey, the owner there, actually came and poured beer himself for the event. Yeah, so that was very, very cool. So yeah, so we got beer, snacks, stuff like that, leveraging some of our relationships there, and just raise money and awareness. So that's kind of where it started when I put that event on. We did that once more, and then I got involved in some other activities. Unfortunately, I've just been traveling so much. I mostly just do the training now. But that's how it kind of got started, was through that event.
So what does that mean when you're doing the training? Are you leading it, coordinating it? Are you providing the venue, or did you write the curriculum? What do you do with that?
So I mostly help with setup and logistics. We always, like, if we're hosting somebody here at the office, there has to be an employee present. So they do anywhere from 4 to 6 trainings a year, and I'll come in, Saturday from 8 to 3, something like that. Maybe not that long, but and they'll host the trainings. They have, big buddies come in and do the trainings and things like that. I'm not quite to that point yet where I'm training the volunteers, but give them the space, help us set up and do all that.
Well, do you mind sharing a story where you were touched, I'll say, by someone that, like, you saw your impact on the child or maybe on the adult through the training? Can you share a story when you really felt that you impacted that person?
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of hard because when you go to these camps in particular, and I sometimes still feel guilty that I haven't done one in a while just because I've been traveling so much. But it's funny, like, you have so many of those experiences in such a short amount of time. The first, I would say, well, I guess my very first impression, the first camp I did, my big buddy was he was like 6'5", like solid 260, huge kid. He played football, but he was only 12. And I'm like, there's no way this kid's going to respect me. I'm a normal sized guy, But it turns out, I would say that whole weekend, we really bonded. And when he had invited me to one of his football games, I went out to go see it. It felt good that he got enough, and he ended up going back to camp, and he was very, so that wasn't like a singular moment, but the fact that he really didn't want to be there to start, but by the end of it, I feel like I did a good job making him comfortable, making him laugh. I got to learn all the young phrases the kids had, the Riz and explaining the drip and all that stuff, which was funny to, so that I guess that whole weekend was, just made me want to keep going back, as a whole. Some of those, I immediately started to think about some of the stories you hear are very, very difficult to like process and listen to.
What are examples of those? And please don't intrude on anyone's privacy. But what were those types of stories you heard?
During when they do the training, sometimes I think a majority of the big buddies, I don't want to say that definitively, but a significant number of the big buddies were little buddies, right? So they had gone to camp, they later came back and started volunteering again. And they'll often come to the training and discuss why they were little buddies. And one of the more shocking ones, I'm not going to obviously say his name, but I think he was 13, and his mother was was murdered by her partner at the time, and it was a murder-suicide, and he walked in and like found them. Another, so that was just during the training, and I was like, wow, what did I get? That's a lot to take in. What did I get myself into? But it's good for them to, I guess the weird thing about death, and what I learned, is that people don't want to talk about it outside of giving their condolences once. You don't really want to bring it up again. And this is really an opportunity for them to talk with other people that are open to hearing it. The hardest is the kids get over it so quickly, or it feels like it. You'll be in this super intense emotional healing circle, is what they call it. And then they're out playing when you walk away. For the adults, it's like, oh man, one of she was a child. I mean, 11, 12 years old. You find out what happened to the sibling or parent, right? So you have an understanding. You don't maybe say things wrong. You just have an understanding, but the kids don't always know that they're, they don't know that we're provided this information, and they may not know the real cause. And one of this young girl, basically said her mother died from suicide, and she just kept saying, I want to know how they passed, right? And you can't tell them that. But she went on to describe everything that took place prior, and then when death happened, she's like, nobody will tell me anything. And I'm like, oh God, listening to that is just, they tell you to take a day off after the camp. I take Monday off, and it's just, and they're all stories like that. None of them are easy to hear. Just some hit you a little harder than others.
Why do you think we don't like to talk about death? I mean, I know that, I understand the subject is not exactly exciting for some, but what do you think that hesitation is? Because it's coming to us all. It's part of life.
I guess my biggest takeaway from talking to people about it is they don't want to upset anyone, right? And you feel like having that conversation or remembering someone that's passed is going to upset them rather than make them feel any kind of comfort. So avoiding the issue is better than talking about it. Whereas, at least from what I've found in these camps, they get a lot of, even over the course of a few days, seem to get a lot out of talking about the difficult things regarding this person's passing, but then also the good things. One of the best stories I heard was a kid talking about, because one of the questions they asked, what's your best memory of your parent? And the kids told a story about going out with his uncle and his dad. His dad had passed, and they went out on a boat and they were fishing. And he's like, my favorite memory of my dad is when I really had to go to the bathroom, and his dad told him to take an aqua duty. And this little kid, so it was like off the boat. But I just thought it's just funny, the things that you remember about people,
right,
are always like goofy and like, kind of gross, you know what I mean? But it's just funny, and it's just, I don't know. So, but it's hard to see getting to that point, talking about death. It just inherently seems like it has to be this dark, depressing conversation when, you may start off with the sad stuff, but you end up with the funny things, the goofy things. And I think it's hard to see the forest through the trees, that you will end up laughing a lot of times having these conversations. It's just going to be a lot of emotion. And that's probably another reason people want to avoid it, is there's a lot of emotion behind whatever you're going to talk about.
And I get that. I do get that. Do you think or have you experienced a difference between volunteering for this nonprofit versus others you may have in the past? Like, is that emotional, not barrier, but is that emotional hurdle evident in the other nonprofits as well?
So I've volunteered for the Red Cross, like stuffing envelopes for hurricane relief, and I've done things. So the company I work for, Dominion, has the CKG Foundation, is a nonprofit started by the owner of the company, and there's a lot of synergy between Comfort Zone and CKG, which is why the company is so helpful with it. CKG does teenage mental health awareness. But I will say, I haven't, the emotional feeling, No, really, I mean, I don't want to say it doesn't compare, but I'm just not as involved with them. But it's so in your face when you go to the camp and you know what you're doing. I would think the other events are much, I don't want to say like easier, but less emotional baggage, right?
Right. I think stuffing envelopes would be less
Yeah,
less of a challenge.
significantly less. Yeah, and then the CKG Foundation, is raising awareness, right? But for them, I guess it's just incomparable because I run there during the race, the slip and so we get a giant slip and slide, so it's purely fun, right? Like there's
so good.
Yeah, so that's all just fun, so it's kind of hard to compare. It's really not a fair comparison.
So then how did you get into volunteering? Was it as a child when you first volunteered, or how did you first step into the world of volunteering?
I've just always wanted to find something to do. Just like something outside of like originally I tried to volunteer for Doorways for Women. Well, like in my early 20s, I don't think I was mature enough to help with something like that. So I went to a few meetings and I never progressed beyond that. But I've always looked for an opportunity, and luckily my role at this job in particular has allowed me a lot of opportunities to volunteer and look for things to do without having to search too hard to find them, because I never really knew like I want to do something, but like what do I want to do, right?
Yes.
So this I feel really grateful over the past 7 years. This job has given me a lot of. I've worked with Feed More. I've worked with just Virginia Repertory Theater doing things and events, and it just and helping them, right? So there's just I feel like I've had endless opportunities over this past like 7 years to get involved in things. Before that, I was working from home. It's kind of hard when you don't know where to start. But I just always inherently kind of wanted to do something, so I don't feel like guilty all the time. Right?
No, don't feel guilty. No, but I love that. I'll say it's your work, your career that opened the doors to volunteering.
For sure.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people think that if they didn't get into it as a child and they don't really know how, and that's sort of a reason to not volunteer, because what do they do? But you're a shining example of there's always something that can be done. Even if it is stuffing envelopes, right? Like that's at least a step in it helps tremendously. Like I don't know what went in those envelopes, but everybody can help in some way, right? The recipients, I'm sure, were appreciative. So there's always something somebody can do.
Yeah, I try to remind myself of that too, because I haven't done a camp in a while, like a long time. I was traveling for work every couple of weeks to Tampa, and I feel guilty about that sometimes. But I still help with the training. I try to raise awareness. But that is, I don't know anybody else that volunteers if they have the same feeling of kind of like guilt. You're not doing enough. But you're right. I mean, I have to remind myself that whatever you're doing is something, right? That's a contribution.
It is something. It's a good something.
It is.
So, what would you or do you know of places you would suggest people go to find out about either volunteer experiences or opportunities in their life, or specifically bereavement related?
So, well, not really specifically to bereavement. I mean, if you have children, right? Both are resources. Like, I would just tell as many people about it as possible. As far as finding volunteer opportunities, I mean, of course, there's the internet, right? But talk to people. Mm-hmm. My recommendation is to talk to people you'll find something that kind of resonates with you. If you kind of put yourself out there and, I don't know, just look for opportunities, right? Do events, right? And just talk to other people, ask what they're doing. More so than just doing a Google search. I think if you find somebody that, you enjoy being around, and they have something that they're interested in, it's a good place to start to find out if that's something that would interest you.
For sure. Yes. And also their own workplace.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
right? So within Dominion Payroll, where does, say, a new employee go to find out about that? Is it a certain department, or is it like, do you have an intranet?
So we actually, we have a platform called Giving and Volunteering. We give that away, just what's included, like our base payroll, right? And that is a platform that, you can search for volunteer opportunities. It's got events, live events listed there. Obviously, of course, nonprofits. Employees can make donations as deductions straight through the platform, either recurring or one time. We can coordinate events through it as well. We actually have an event. It's one of my favorite events.
What is the event?
Oh my God, I get so hyped. It's our 5th or 6th annual. I'll just say 6th annual because why let the truth get in the way of a good story?
Love. 8th,
we do
10th, yes.
Yeah, 8th, 10th, decades.
Sure. The fish was this big. Yeah.
Exactly. It's called Donuts for Dogs. And I'll share the link with you. So we're going to be live streaming it. If I can convince the marketing director, she'll say yes. But we're going to, it's Donuts for Dogs. It's a donating competition. And we have the local SPCA here and right outside of Scott's Addition come in. They bring dogs in for adoption. We have adopted 2 dogs from the event so far. It's not bad. But this year we have 15 participants who will try to eat as many Krispy Kreme donuts as they possibly can within 4 minutes. And as a prize, I got a donut trophy for them. It's a squishable donut trophy, which is sick. It's amazing. And also the SPCA offered the next time they get an unnamed foster, whoever the victor is will get to name said dog or cat. So they come in, they have a booth. We raise money. People place bets on who they think is going to win, and all that money goes to the SPCA. But that's why I love, I'm very grateful again to be at this job because it let me do stupid things like that, right? That are just really ridiculous. But we have this great space, and they don't care. I mean, as long as I can show that I can't just do things willy nilly, but as long as it's for a good cause, we do a ton of events like that. So the Arts in the Addition, Donuts for Dogs, really anytime I have an opportunity to put on an event, about it. So
loving that. You are just the event man. It sounds like you have a creative side for sure.
Yeah, I love doing the goofy stuff like that. Plus, that's another kind of going back to what you said before. When people are thinking about volunteering and thinking about your work tied into it, I'm in sales, right? If you can't tell, love to talk, right? But sales.
Now I understand.
Yeah, right. They get kind of a bad rap sometimes, the whole sales thing. And what I tell my employees is, you could do it in a positive way, man. You can go out and do good things, right? Like these events. I love talking about them in meetings because it goes to show who we are as an organization. We don't do traditional advertising. I would rather do it that way. I'd rather raise money for the community. I'd rather go out and volunteer and meet people that way. And not with the goal in mind of I'm going to do this and make a bunch of money, but no, this is part of who I am. And I want other people to know about it. And that's a really great way, I think, to make a living, right? If I can make a living doing good things and helping people at the same time, and use that, it's positive, right? So.
Absolutely.
Anyway,
you're making a living and making a life. Yes.
Oh, look at that. Yes. I like that, Megan.
It's that little marketing side of me coming out. Watch out. So, I so appreciate all that you've shared with us today. And you said you're a talker. So do you have any last minute thoughts you'd like to share with us before we sign off for the day?
No, please just, anybody that's listening, please check out Comfort Zone Camp. If you, maybe you don't need it personally, but it is a completely free camp for children that are really struggling. So anytime I can get more awareness out about it, please check it out. Comfort Zone Camp, CZC. They do camps primarily in Virginia, but all over the country. So maybe you know somebody who needs the help. That and Dominion Payroll's Speak Up 5K is in September. Write it down. I'll be running the slip and slide in September. It's 40 feet long and 20 feet wide. It's amazing. So you can
That's
come see me
huge.
there and do a little bit of running. So that's it. That's all I got.
Love that. Well, you've been a joy, and thank you so much for sharing not just what all you do, but sharing your heart and your passion for all these people you're getting to help with through your work, and really making a difference throughout your community.
Well, thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, listeners, and stay tuned. We will get to talk with you again. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Doing Good podcast. If you enjoyed our conversation today, we invite you to subscribe or rate us on your favorite podcast platform. And follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, or YouTube at Doing Good TV. Doing Good is a 501c3 nonprofit. Please donate to support this podcast via the donate button on our website, doinggood.tv. And while you're there, nominate a volunteer you know for us to celebrate on a future episode. Together, let's celebrate those who are doing good.